Emmanuel Macron, who is the president of France, is in China with the head of the EU, meeting Xi Jinping, and then everyone in France is rioting because they raised the retirement age, what is it, from 62 to 64. They reformed pensions and all this stuff, and the French are not having it. And the French are very, very good at rioting. There's certain things they're really good at. Cheese, some wines, champagne, which I learned how to say properly from Christopher Walken's SNL skit. And rioting. They're really good at rioting. Yeah. One of my favorite things that I ever learned about the French and riots were during the Grand Tour, watching Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Hammond and James May. And they were, Richard Hammond was just tickled pink. He was so excited because he was retelling this story of when they put up red light cameras. When they put up red light cameras in the United States, we all bitched and moaned, right? They put up red light cameras in France, and the French tore down the whole dang traffic pole and all over France, and they threw them in the streets and they burned down trash cans. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, they weren't rioting over more government intervention. It's kind of interesting to see. Anyway, I say that because I was looking at the headlines this morning, and it looked so weird to see this video of all of the French rioting over the pension reform. They took over a BlackRock office. Did you see that video, Kane? No. Oh, how did you not see that? This is like your favorite thing to talk about, kicking BlackRock in the beanies. Fine. Look on Twitter. Look France and then BlackRock. Look for it. Because they were setting things on fire. I mean, it looked like Armageddon outside of the BlackRock offices. And they were mad because BlackRock is involved in all this. It seems as though they're a little bit more economically aware than a lot of voters, I think, here in the United States. I don't say that as a put down. I say it because I don't know what it is. Why is that different? We're going to talk to Charles Payne here in a moment, coming up after headlines, and I'm going to ask him about this because they took over one of the offices. They stormed in and took over a whole BlackRock office in Paris. It's wild. And then here, what do we do? What do we do? I'm not saying go and burn stuff down. What are we doing here? Not that. I mean, I don't like BlackRock, but we're not doing that. Why are they the ones who are madder about this than we are? It is wild. You can listen to the show, by the way, across the country, and you can also watch the simulcast. YouTube, Facebook, always a discussion going on over at YouTube. And the Channel 347 DirecTV. Now, what Juan is showing right now is the protesters. They were in the streets, and they've been, fires, flags. They're mad over pension reform, and they're angry over BlackRock's involvement as well. That's why they took over the BlackRock offices, all of that stuff. But this is going on. So this is going on in France, and Emmanuel Macron's is in China, visiting with Xi Jinping, hanging out down the street, same old thing. Okay, that's the 70s show thing. Anyway, but you get my point. It just seems a little tone deaf, doesn't it? It seems very, very tone deaf. And I just think if, whenever somebody said it's a day in Y that ends in Y when the French are violently protesting something, but at least they're saying something. At least they're doing something. I don't know. Because I have a headline coming up that I wasn't going to touch on just yet, but Americans, it says, so it's Yahoo Finance, it says Americans are over the endless anxiety loop. Only the rich, remote workers, and Gen Zers actually care about the banking crisis, according to a new Harris poll. What? I can't believe I'm going to say this. Kane, I've never said this in the history of the show on anything. I really don't know exactly how to take myself. I don't agree with myself saying this totally, but I do. I can't believe I'm saying these words. We need to be a little bit more like the French here. I'm just saying, what happened? What is going on with this show? Where it happened? But for real though, they're very aware of this. I watched a video last night. It was a young man, and he was so mad, and I love angry French people. I love it when they get mad, because the accent, I just assume that every word's an insult. And it's the only language that can sound, depending on tone and speed, either very sweet and romantic, or you are being insulted by the snottiest person on earth. It's one of the two. And they were sitting here going on and on and on about how, all of the ways in which they are going to be affected. They knew exactly every single one of these steps taken by Macron's government, how that was going to affect them, how it was going to affect their business. They were very plugged in and very aware. Now, why is that? Why is it that they are angry? I mean, yes, they have a crazier, higher tax rate. They've been revolting. It just seems like they're the fact that they've been out in the streets for quite some time about this. These riots have been going on for quite a long time. No one's talking about them, though. Have you noticed? They're not talking about it. So I want to kind of follow this a little bit, because I'm fascinated, because while this is going on, Emmanuel Macron is in China, and he's hanging out and talking to Xi Jinping. They've been meeting. He was pressing upon him, trying to get China to back, to work a little bit more overtime, and pulling Russia back in Ukraine. Now, by the way, speaking of China and France, because we've had all of these headlines about whether it's Russia now saying that they're going to be using Chinese currency for trade, business, etc. in Asia, Africa, Latin America. You had Brazil come out and say they're not going to recognize Taiwan as a sovereign entity. You've had, a bunch of other countries. I mean, the petrodollar's being entirely destabilized. But if you subscribe to my email newsletter, you got this last night. Guess who, the first European nation to do it? Guess who is the first European nation to begin the de-dollarization movement? France. This was yesterday. The era of de-dollarization. France is finally embracing it. The dominant position in international trade and finance, widely accepted for a long time with the U.S. dollar. But as tensions have risen, geopolitical uncertainties deepen, everyone is reassessing their reliance on the dollar and exploring alternative options. So France has embraced the yuan. They've taken a step towards it. Apparently, according to reports, Chinese and French energy companies have signed the first ever liquefied natural gas contract to be paid in Chinese currency. Now, the deal that involves 65,000 tons of LNG from the UAE represents a major development in Beijing's efforts to challenge the dollar's status as the world's petrodollar for the trade of gas and oil. China's push to establish their currency as the prominent currency in trading energy and energy trading has gained a lot of momentum. So China National Offshore Oil Company closed a deal with Total Energies. They've been promoting this. I mean, they want a more diversified ecology against the dollar. This is a major blow. And the news comes on the eve of Macron and the EU President Ursula von der Leyen on this 3-day visit. And they're coming with a delegation of more than 50 French CEOs. And they're discussing bilateral cooperation with China. And this is a significant development because it shows that they are interested in embracing Chinese currency as an alternative. And this, remember, what country was it that we had yesterday, and where they said, Kane, that you can't rely on the dollar anymore with us? Yeah, who was that? That was in our headlines.
I want to say it was an African nation, but I'm gonna
major development. And we're going to talk to our friend Charles Payne on all of this, because think about this. I mean, one of the reasons that we were able to be a superpower in terms of military might is because of the petrodollar, because of our currency, the strength of our currency. I mean, if it keeps going this rate, if we were to have any kind of, heaven forbid, conflict with China, we wouldn't be able to pay for it.